What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and so I'm here today making this video because it is official. The Miami Dolphins have traded Ryan Tannehill to the Tennessee Titans. So here's the thing, right? So look, man, all you haters, obviously you're getting what you want, but now we don't have a quarterback. We have Luke Falk and Jake Ruddock, I think, are the two quarterbacks we have. Nobody's. We don't have a quarterback. We don't have an offensive line or a defensive line. You know, we've got our wide receiver group has gotten weaker. Our running back group has gotten weaker. Brandon Bolden did go back to the Patriots, by the way. You know, we're just bleeding. We're bleeding out. We haven't done anything. We signed a couple like nothing tight ends and an okay quarterback, right? So they traded Ryan Tannehill to the Tennessee Titans. So at the end of the day, here's how this works out, and this is what happens. So the Dolphins are going to save, you know, about $18.75 this year. Okay, great. Good cap savings. They are going to, because of the way the trade is, he had to restructure his deal. We're going to have next year, we're going to be pretty good in the cap department with regard to him because we're not going to have any dead money. We're not going to have a cap hit or anything for him. So that is good because I want to make sure to give you guys the full context, of course. So that is great. But this year we do still have $13 million of dead money to carry over. And we don't have a quarterback now. Okay. So, but we still have that hit. Well, what did we get? Okay, so we do get the savings, but what did we get? Well, we gave them our 6th round pick. We had 7 picks in the draft, right? We gave them our 6th. So we give Tannehill away. We get that money back, which is great, but let me say, I care less about the money than a lot of the other things, like having a quarterback, for example. But we'll get to all that. So, we get the money. We give away our 6th round pick this year. Well, we got their 7th round pick from this year. Great. So now we have no 6th round, but 2 7th round picks. Okay, well that's obviously a loss just in that comparison. And then, you know, someone I had heard, you know, or someone had said that, you know, well, you could just trade those 2 7th and get a 6th back. Okay, but you're still losing picks because then you only have 6 picks as opposed to the 7 that you had before. Now, with all the talent and stuff that we're bleeding, is it possible we will get compensatory picks next year? Yeah, probably. And we do get their 4th round or a 4th round pick of theirs from next year. Okay. I mean, but we don't have a quarterback. And I mean, this year we're going to have less picks, or technically as it stands right now, the same amount of picks, but, you know, missing around because we went back. And, you know, next year, what are we going to do with that 4th? I mean, sure, we have a ton of holes to fill. And if we do get compensatory picks and that with that 4th, we'll be able to do some things next year. But what if we go chasing a quarterback this year? Okay, so let's say we do that. Let's say because we don't have one, right? We got tons of holes to fill. We don't have an offensive line, essentially. Our defensive line is almost completely depleted as well now. So, you know, what are we going to do? If we do chase a quarterback like Kyler Murray, like a lot of people want, like what they're saying, then that means we're going to, because we have the 13th pick. If we want to get Kyler Murray, at a minimum, we'd have to trade into the top 3. But everybody's saying we'd have to get that top pick to guarantee it. Do you know how much draft capital we're going to have to get rid of? So as it stands right now, what we know we have in draft capital are 7 picks from this year, not a 6th, but 2 7th rounders, and 7 picks for next year, or 8 picks for next year, because now we have 2 4ths, right? Because we don't know if or what compensatory picks we'll get. I don't think we have any 2020 picks from trades. I'm pretty sure we don't, except for the one that we just got from Tannehill. I don't think there are any more. So we only have 8 picks next year because we don't know what our... So if we give away some of our picks this year and next year to move up to go get Kyler Murray, well then this is all just a huge net loss. And what's going to happen to Kyler Murray? He's going to get murdered behind a paper-thin offensive line, because if you're giving away all that draft capital, you lose chances to draft, offensive linemen, and since you're taking a quarterback first, you don't have a chance to get some of the top talent at offensive or defensive line, and then you give up opportunities to get them later on in the draft and in future drafts. Like, that is not a smart business plan. That is not a smart business plan. Okay, so we'll see how this works out. I mean, there are other things that they could do. I mean, at this point, I would say what would probably be, I don't even know, like, because I was gonna say maybe trade back so you can accrue more picks, like out of the or down in the first round or something like that, right? To accrue more picks, you could do that. That would be all right. And that might do something for you, because then in that case, maybe you could get another pick this year and then like another pick next year, start stacking your picks next year, and then hopefully you do get some compensatory picks, so that way, we'll be loaded next year. Then that might be all right. In that context, then, you might be able to say that, okay, well, we're doing everything that we can to make sure we get enough draft capital to be able to have, a ton of shots, like kind of what the Jacksonville Jaguars did and the Browns did in recent years, right? Where they stack all this draft capital and then, they take all these shots at all these guys, right? Instead of like chasing guys, whatever. That's what I would do, right? I would, if anything at this point, because we're so thin with the amount of draft capital that we know for sure that we have, we need to be careful about like just willy-nilly getting rid of it, okay? Because I mean, we don't have a quarterback, we don't have an offensive line, a defensive line, we need more cornerback help still. Eric Rowe's not going to be enough. We are going to need to probably somewhere get more running back help and wide receiver help, because we're letting guys just go, right? So, and special teams took a pretty big hit, losing Mike Hull and Brandon Bolden. I mean, this team is just getting super thin. Like, if people complained about having depth before, bro, we don't even have starters. We are so thin right now. Like this, we are just bleeding out. We are like a wounded animal that is just bleeding out. This is crazy. And that's why I'm saying, like, first of all, none of this was necessary. We're like committing suicide for no reason. Like, life is good, and just for whatever reason you decide to fucking slit your wrists. Like, I'm sorry, but it's just wild. That's kind of like what's going on right now, because we didn't need to have this crazy regime change, and we didn't need to have this gutting of the team. Like, literally, we went from having a wonderful 10-6 season and then 2 subpar seasons because of factors that were not in our control, to, like, I don't even want to know what next season's gonna be, bro. Like first, I just don't understand how anybody could see everything that's going on and then expect that we're gonna have a good year this year, even if like luck is on our side and so many things like fall just perfectly, bro. Like, history has proven that it's very rare for teams that are in like full rebuilds like we are, like gutting down to the bare bones, have successful seasons the next year. And even if they do, then they fall off a cliff usually more often than not the next couple years. And a lot of that plays into my point about, one, it's very hard to expect or even hope that we're going to be successful this upcoming year. But then have success in the following years and then build something where we're having sustained success within 3 to 5 years, right? Or within 3 years, I'm going to say within 3 years, because that's what Adam Gase was given. And I advocate for the 5 years. And I don't think that this ownership and fan base is going to have the patience with Brian Flores and this organization and this front office if in 3 years we're not, we've had, crappy or subpar seasons, right? And then it's just going to be another regime change, another full rebuild, right? So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that with the moves that they've made and are making, it is not reasonable or logical to expect that within the next 3 years, we're going to have the kind of outstanding success that a lot of people seem to think we have. People are putting undue pressure initially on this coaching staff. A lot of people are like anointing them as like the next coming of Christ, essentially. And then, they're completely gutting everything, right? So like, it's unfair to do that. Don't put all of that on their plates right now, because we should not be expecting to have a good season next year. And in fact, for the next few years, we should expect that it's an extreme struggle. Because look, take this, let's juxtapose this, right? The first year in Adam Gase, so I'm going to compare the 3 years of Adam Gase to a projection of Brian Flores' first 3 years. So the first year of Adam Gase, he had an alright team, an average team, right? And he took them and he went 10-6 with that team and made it to the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. Since 2008, since the Tony Sparano Wildcat year, right? Since then, he went 10-6 and got us to the playoffs. But in that year, there wasn't a whole lot of controversy, right? It was a pretty quiet year from that standpoint, right? It was just, normal operations. We were having some injuries, but no more than anybody else. It was just kind of regular until then we lose Ryan Tannehill at the end of that season, right? And that was the reason why we didn't do as well as we should have in the last few games. We still won some games and we still did all right with Matt Moore in there for sure, absolutely. But we would have done better with Ryan Tannehill, and we would have had a much more competitive showing in that game against Pittsburgh in the first round if Ryan Tannehill was in there. Okay, so losing him was what ended our playoff chances once we got into the playoffs that season. That was the biggest adversity, and unfortunately, because Ryan Tannehill wasn't there, we weren't able to overcome it. Then we go, because the rest of the team it was just average overall. But with great coaching. Then you go into the second year. We don't have Ryan Tannehill, so he's automatically gone for the entire year. You bring in Jay Cutler, which was a disaster. I absolutely believe that. But I still defend Gase, because I think it was the best he could have done. Aside from Colin Kaepernick, I would have taken Colin Kaepernick, but I know that for a lot of reasons that just wasn't going to work, right? From a business standpoint, a lot of people in the fan base wouldn't have liked it, blah, 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 the political aspects, blah, blah, blah. It just wouldn't have worked. So I think he did the best he could with what he had available, and it just didn't work. I don't think anybody should have expected otherwise, really, but, we try and be hopeful, and we deal with what we can. But then, on top of that, of course, you have the whirlwind of other crazy things that happen. Hurricanes, coaches snorting coke, blah, 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 blah. So then you throw all that into the mix. Again, one of my big things is full context, people. So you have all of that. That's what contributed to a down season. right? It wasn't Adam Gase's fault. It wasn't Ryan Tannehill's fault. Okay? Then the next year, it's just finally we have a good offensive line. We have a super beefed up supporting cast with receivers and running backs. And, you know, the tight ends ended up obviously being just kind of average. But I think that the tight ends certainly would have been better if all the rest of the team was better, right? If the offensive line was better and we didn't lose all those wide receivers and stuff like that. I think that the tight ends would have been able to produce more as well. And then, we just had everything, and then we finally had all the pieces in place, and then we just couldn't stop losing people. We could not stop losing people. Every week we were losing more and more people. Not just starters. We lost a ton of starters. We had, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but we had like 12 or 13 people on injured reserve at the end of the year. Okay? But we lost a lot of depth too. But those are, again, factors that are not in control, that Tannehill and Gase don't control. And so those things should not have been, they should have been talked about, absolutely. And how can we try and prevent these things in the future, or how can we better prepare ourselves, right? Those are the types of things where you learn lessons and you say, okay, right, over these first 3 years, right? So in year 4 and 5, they would have been a lot wiser, a lot smarter. They would have had contingencies in place. They would have, done all these things so that way they could have been better prepared in the future for when these things hit, for losing their quarterback, for having all these crazy things happen, right? They have that knowledge base. But now guess what? Adam Gase now has that in New York. So he gets to take all of that wisdom there. And we lose that wisdom here. Yes, Brian Flores put together a great staff. Absolutely. And he gets credit for that. But he's still a first-year head coach. He still has a lot to learn. He's going to have to learn on the fly, right? So, and on top of that, though, now you have a front office that is actually more convoluted than what it was in the Adam Gase regime. So that's actually, when compared to those two regimes, that's a detriment. That's a step backwards because it's more convoluted, at least from the perspective that a lot of the media was saying about how, Stephen Ross is streamlining the front office. Again, that point is not accurate because there are more heads in the room. So just from that perspective, I'm not saying it can't work, and I'm not saying the people that are in there can't work well together and they can't be successful. I'm not saying that. They can be. It's just from that perspective. Again, I'm giving you the full context. Right? And then, but for sure, we are just absolutely gutting this team. So Adam Gase came in with a relatively stable front office because Tannenbaum was already here. Chris Greer was already here, right? And then he had an average team. Not one that was in full rebuild, just dumping everybody, right? He had an average team, and he was able to take that and go 10-6. If Brian Flores is able to go 10-6, and then, of course, also with almost no adversity aside from losing your quarterback late in the season. If Brian Flores could take this gutted team with a more convoluted and completely reshuffled front office and an entirely brand new coaching staff and go 10-6, that would be a miracle. And I would say, if that happens, I will say at the end of the year that Brian Flores, I'm not going to anoint him anything because he's still going to have to prove it, but he will get all the credit in the fucking world from me, and he should be coach of the fucking year. Because the odds and the chances and the mountain he has to climb to do that in this case is just absolutely astounding. And that's assuming that he has no other adversity this year besides those things. The reshuffled and convoluted front office and the completely gutted team and all new coaching staff with a first-year head coach. if that's all he has to deal with and no other adversity, which is unreasonable, frankly, but even if we had a tame season, it would still be tremendously difficult to replicate what Adam Gase did in his first year. Then you go into year 2 and 3, okay, you start having some drafts and you do start establishing some things and so on and so forth, but there's going to be adversity that hits. You're going to have things that happen. So, and again, I've said this, and I said this in Adam Gase's time, he needs time to build his culture, to go through drafts. So if in the next 3 years, we're still struggling and suffering and not where people want us to be, are they going to give him the chance and the opportunity to get those last 2 years in that he has a guaranteed, apparently guaranteed contract? But hear me now, quote me later. If after year 3 we're a bad team, a mediocre or bad team, I don't think that this front office, or excuse me, not the front office, this ownership, Stephen Ross, and this fan base is going to give Brian Flores the chance. I think they will cut him because, just like they've proven to do, right? Because they're impatient and because they don't care about facts. They won't care that there are moments of adversity that, affected the ultimate outcome, and factors that were not under their control. But here's the thing though. Here's the thing about that. They're choosing to gut the fuck out of this team. They are choosing to do that. They're choosing to let Cam Wake walk when they could have paid him easily what he's getting paid in Tennessee. They could have figured out a way to, keep Frank Gore. And again, I go back to, firing Gase and having all of this change to begin with just wasn't necessary. But anyway, all right, that's where I'm going to end it. Look, it is what it is, man. Like I said, I mean, you guys can decide for yourself, and we will know for sure. We will know for sure in the next few years what happens. So, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. And y'all are going to see what happens. We're going to go through it together, right? There's a lot of people, some of the other YouTubers and stuff, they're all excited about this. They're all pumped up. They're ready to go. They're like, yeah, we're going to have a great 2019 season. We've completely gutted the team. We have a first-year head coach that hasn't done shit yet. We have completely reshuffled our front office. And somehow we're going to have a good 2019 season. I hope so. But anyway, no matter what, we're going to go through it together and we're going to see. And look, like I said, I care about the facts. That's what's important to me. Look, I'm not going to be afraid to call people out or to call, shit out when it's when it's non-factual and when, shit just doesn't make fucking sense. But I care about the facts most of all. So if I'm wrong about something, bring me the facts, bring me the information, I'll make the correction. And we'll see over the next 1, 2, 3 years who ends up being right. And I don't care about being right. I would so love to be wrong. I will love at the end of 2019 to be like, God damn, man, this motherfucker did it. He took us 10-6, 11-5. We made it to the playoffs. He had so much to overcome. First year head coach, blah, 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 blah. So much to overcome. And again, gutting this team is their choice. They are making these decisions. Man. And think about it though. What if we suck this next year and then, Albert Wilson wants to leave after his contract's up? What if Xavier Howard doesn't want to stay and wants to test free agency? I don't know, man. I mean, there's a lot of possible repercussions from this that we just don't know yet that could be, devastating, man. But again, to be fair, those things haven't happened yet, and we can't say for certain on a lot of that stuff. So again, we're going to ride this out together and we're going to see what's up. But I'm going to be here one way or the other with you guys. And I'm just going to keep it real with you. And I'm going to keep giving you the facts. I'm going to keep giving you the full context. And, you know, you guys can make up your minds for yourself. But anyway, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.